Hi, it is April the 27th today. Is it? Yes. And that makes it day 38 of our lockdown. Do you want to say how you are first before I say how I am today, Chris?
I'm alright. I am wearing quite a garish t-shirt. What do you think of the t-shirt?
It's not my favourite.
This t-shirt
Yeah.
Attracts more comment, I would say, than any other item of clothing.
I can imagine so.
And not all those comments are positive.
It is eye-catching. It isn't my favourite of your t-shirts, but it's got its own little sort of charm.
It's a Rick and Morty t-shirt, and I would say the comments that I get about this t-shirt broadly fall into two categories.
People who like Rick and Morty.
People who say, "Yeah, I like Rick and Morty. Yeah, good shirt."
And people go, "What's up with your shirt?"
Yeah, people who don't like the shirt. So there's a sort of third category, which are people who sort of go, it's an interesting shirt that you're wearing," as if they're too polite to come out and say they don't like the shirt, but their facial expression and tone leaves so little room for ambiguity that they may as well just...
That's a choice you've made there.
Yeah, they might as well just say they don't like the shirt. It's my feeling.
You like the shirt,
well,
I assume. So
that's the
only thing that matters. You're the one wearing it.
Well, I'd often wear a shirt over the top, you see, and then there's not quite so much.
It is quite a lot of pickles.
Quite a big patterny shirt. If I wear something over the top, you just see a little
flash of pickle Rick.
Yes.
It might help me. It might have helped me like it more. I'm not a big Rick and Morty fan. I very much fall into the category of I'm apparently wrong. I don't hate Rick and Morty. I just don't particularly like Rick and Morty. I've watched a few episodes and I'm a bit meh. But there we are. Takes all sorts.
It really does.
But yeah, the reason I prefaced the start of the show... This isn't a show, Ellie, come on. The start of this, whatever this is, with how are you doing, Chris, is because I, today, am a fucking mess.
Actually knew that I would never ask.
No, you've been very good with dealing with me being a fucking mess today. I think I sort of mentioned yesterday that I was feeling a bit wobbly, a little bit angsty and a little bit out of sorts. I hoped that would just sort of pass with a night's sleep and waking up on a fresh new day. But no, my brain decided to double down on that. I remembered after sort of telling you about sort of... because basically as soon as I woke up, I was anxious. I do actually remember I did have an anxiety dream. Which was probably why I was already anxious when I woke up, and it only just came back to me afterwards. I was like, oh yes, I did dream about that last night. But yeah, it was just one of those typical, you're trying to get lots of things done, you can't get them done, everything keeps you keep nearly getting there on time and nearly getting the things done, but more obstacles keep coming. Just one of those typical anxious dreams. So that probably set me off on a bad kilter. Anyway, and then when I came downstairs, I think it's safe to say I was holding off having a full-blown panic attack. My hands were shaking, I was nearly crying, and it was literally over nothing. Like, it wasn't that anything particularly anxiety-causing had happened. That, if you haven't ever suffered with irrational anxiety, you might not really understand, because like how you can just be in a really anxious mood and you're not sure what you're anxious of. But it isn't rational. It is an emotional, psychological state, and you can't always control it. But it's the first time I've just had a bad day like that, mental health wise, in a long time. I did talk a few weeks ago about getting a bit anxious about going to the shop, but that was over a specific cause, and I did it anyway, and then I got home and I felt sort of glad that I'd done it. Today it was more generalised. I'm just anxious. Everything's making me feel off and on edge. So I've tried to sort of go easy on myself today. Try to sort of do things that just don't put too much pressure on me and distract me. So I've actually had to sort of dip into my bag of tricks for positive mental health stuff that I haven't had to do in a long time. So my highly recommend, by the way, because is colouring books. I started on one of those because they keep your brain busy enough that you've got to be sort of keeping between the lines and thinking about what colours you're going to choose, but it's quite restful and satisfying at the same time. So I've never been very good at meditating. My brain just is too busy, and I can do guided meditations. I find them quite good, but I can't just sort of sit with nice music and meditate because my brain just runs too fast for that. So I find colouring books ideal. Another thing that I did used to find very good was Tai Chi, but I didn't find doing it on my own very helpful. I enjoyed doing that as a group, and obviously that's not happening at the moment. But if you wanted to give like Tai Chi or something like that a go, the thing that I really liked about it was it gave my body something to focus on. It's all sort of in the rhythm with your own breath, so it's quite restful and quite calming, and it just gives you enough focus on your brain to just keep busy, but not too busy, because that's sort of the best way I can describe anxiety, is your brain is just firing on all cylinders, and there's a sense of panic, and it is the fight and flight response, but actually it's more than that. And I think people calling it the fight or flight response is a little bit misleading, because actually it's more accurate to say that you have fight, flight, or freeze. And for me, it usually means I go to freeze. And so something as simple as making a decision, it feels impossible. Your brain just goes, can't do it, panic. So that was a bit of a rough day on that front.
Well, just simple things like trying to be nice.
Yeah,
so, what
trying his best, bless him.
What would you like for lunch? I'll cook whatever you fancy. But then for you, that's like
I got tearful because I couldn't even answer that.
I'm a bit anxious. I don't want to have to make a decision or think about choices. So I just sort of.
So then you suggested something. No, that sounds lovely. Yes, thank you. Yes, please. And bless you, because you haven't actually sort of seen me going through this before, and I haven't been. And hopefully it's just a little blip. And at least now I already have a box of tricks to dip into, whereas previously when I was sort of having trouble with my mental health, I didn't have any coping strategies or mechanisms, so I've had to develop them, but I haven't needed to use them for a long time. Now, the reason I'm going into all of this is because actually, incidentally, a couple of people, a few friends were speaking to me today, and they've been going through the same thing. Incidentally, 4 of my friends who were all in one little sort of group message all had wobbles today, over different things and of different varying degrees of sort of severity, but everybody was having a bit of a wobble. And then another friend separately messaged me just to sort of check in on how I was doing. And incidentally, when I sort of said, oh, not great today, no, absolutely bonkers, to be honest, and she went, me too. And then we had quite a good little chat. And I think it's probably quite rife at the moment. So I'm not going to give myself grief for feeling like it, and I'm not going to sort of panic too much that this means I'm on a slippery slope into bad mental health or anything. Like I say, I do have coping strategies. I've got things that I know that will help, so I will just do them. But also, I think these are scary times. Now, it might seem, and as I say, it's not logical. There are other people who have it a lot rougher than me, but that's not what anxiety or indeed depression or anything really rely on, because it's not logical, it's not based in fact, it's all based in feeling. And I think, so obviously if somebody's working on the front line in a COVID ward and they're doing 12-hour shifts and they can't see their family because they don't want to risk infecting them, they're having a worse time than me, absolutely. But it is just, I think, everybody is dealing with life having changed. Most people don't like change. Routines, not being able to make a routine, not really being able to make plans, just this massive level of uncertainty.
Well, that's it as well, because it's change coupled with uncertainty about the future, because it's not a permanent change, but we don't know how much is permanent and how things are going to be and how much will return back to normal and financial things.
Yeah,
and,
it's just...
So there's a lot of stuff that's up in the air. So massive change and massive uncertainty and kind of two...
And it's so all-encompassing. It's just creeping into every conversation and every aspect of life. So there isn't really any respite from it. And so I think that a lot of people are probably struggling a bit at the moment, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because I think it is important to talk about it. I think mental health, whatever your situation, it's helpful. I know that I found it helpful when other people have sort of gone, oh yeah, no, I used to read, or I still do struggle with XYZ. It helps you realise that you're not alone, and also you're not in some way failing if it's something that you're struggling with. It isn't a lot of fun to go through it, and having a good support network is absolutely invaluable. It's impossible to sort of describe, but also do what you need to self-care. So one of my things previously, well, most of my coping strategies are things to switch off and help just slow the mind down, because it's just going, I think it's mainly adrenaline based, but you're just panicking basically, so your mind is racing and it's going to the worst possible case scenario of all possible scenarios, and that's exhausting. So you need to kind of distract and slow down. The other thing is sort of to take control of the situation and do things that I have control over. And I think that's another reason why maybe I'm slipping a little bit at the moment, is because there's so much going on that I have no control over, that I'm left in this sort of limbo of literally my days are open to do whatever I want, but all of the things that I feel like doing aren't productive, and then you sort of give yourself grief over that, and you sort of think, well, I should be doing something more valuable, and it's just don't worry about it. Just get yourself through the day and give yourself a break. So that's what I'm trying to do. I did sort of previously set myself a bit of a goal when it comes to mental health issues, which is try not to avoid doing the thing that's giving you anxiety. The reason being, if you're getting anxious about doing something and then you don't do it, you get an enormous sense of relief. But the trouble is that sort of negative reinforcement, because it means next time you're feeling anxious about doing something, you're even more inclined to not do it, because you know that you'll get that positive emotional feedback from cancelling it. So my general rule of thumb is to try to do the thing anyway, but I didn't succeed in that today. One of the things that I was supposed to do today, which should have been a nice thing to do, was to have a group chat with 3 friends of mine, which I was looking forward to. Talking to them was not going to give me anxiety, but just having to be sociable felt too big today. So I was supposed to be talking to them at about 7:30. I was still in the bath at 7:30, but my plan was I was going to get out of the bath, I was going to do my hair, put my face on, because that's sort of painting my face and putting my war paint on and getting myself ready to be seen. And perhaps if we'd been arranging to chat at about 11 p.m, I might have been ready by then, but I wasn't ready at the time, and they were very good about it. They were just like, hey, we're here, and if you want to just join in, you can, but no pressure. So I gave myself today to just go, this feels too big. I will just have to make sure that next time I'm feeling like that about something, I don't keep doing that. The reason why I know that's important is because I know the path that it leads you down. Back in my very bad sort of mental health days, I ended up being basically agoraphobic, because everything outside was uncertain and I couldn't control what might happen once I left my front door. So I ended up just never leaving. I could leave if I had someone with me, but I couldn't leave on my own, and that is bonkers. That is not a helpful way to live your life. And I know that that's where those unhelpful, they feel good at the time, but they lead to that sort of stuff. Thankfully, now would be a great time to be agoraphobic. You'd be doing the whole country a favour by being insane. But I'm not going to go down that route. I'm aware of those sorts of pitfalls. If you are struggling, I would say give yourself a break, but do analyse what's making you feel better and why it's making you feel better. And if you think that's a helpful thing, then keep doing it. If you think it's maybe reinforcing negative things, maybe try and find better or different ways to do it. But yeah, can't help, I highly recommend things like meditation, colouring in, things that are restful but just keep your mind busy enough so that you can't go to crazy places.
You found a new little sort of mental health boost today, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is the one where you came into the kitchen.
Oh, I did, yeah.
With the biggest smile you've done all day. That was lovely to see.
Well, it was very nice, actually, yeah. One of the things I did, because I thought it would make me feel better, and it did, was I haven't actually posted it to YouTube. If you're friends with me on Facebook, or possibly with Chris, because I think you shared it as well, you might have already seen it. But I took a video, I think we mentioned it on here, but Poppet had managed to get her cone off without undoing the cone, which I don't know how that's possible. She got her head through a gap smaller than her head without unpopping the cone. I don't know how she did that. But at the time, I think it's like a 40-second video, but I videoed having found her and talking about the cone. So I shared it to a Facebook group that's a cat-centric Facebook group. I'm in many of those. This particular one is called Oh My God, What a Fucking Cat. And it's basically been designed so that people can tag nice cat posts with oh my god, what a fucking cat. Whatever makes you happy. Anyway, so I posted her in there and found a few other tag groups from it, because quite a few people sort of responded, laughing and telling a few stories about when their animals have done bonkers things as well. But yeah, one chap posted another tag group which is please tell this cat that I love them. So I need to tell Poppet that a chap called Brooke from America loves her, so remind me to do that later. But it did give me a nice wholesome boost of just, yes, I'll just focus on the cute little things and be silly.
I'm very glad it helped give you a wholesome boost. I can't imagine it's going to cheer Poppet up very much.
No.
She's been grumpy.
Yeah, she's
all day. She bit me this morning.
Yeah, I know, I heard from bed. I was still in bed and I just heard you go, ow, that's not the game, is it?
I can't remember why she bit me.
You were trying to stop her from licking her dressing.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I said.
Well, that's what you know. I'm saying that's how I know, because I wasn't.
Sound like, well, that's my side of the story.
No, I just mean because I wasn't there.
Until we have another witness, we don't have to go with it. I did. Poppet was trying to lick her dressing, her bandages, and she's not allowed to get it wet or pick at it, and that's why she got the cone on. And we had the cone off because it's nice. So
that she can have supervised grooming time.
Yeah, so she's not have it, because she doesn't like having the cone on, so we'll take it off sometimes. That's nice.
Thankless task though, isn't it?
Then I try and stop her from attacking her dressing, she just bites me. And the other thing I've noticed is she never looks grateful when we take the cone off. She just looks pissy with us when we put it back on again. Yeah,
when she was first feeling a bit back in good spirits and she was in that room, she was getting very affectionate when we went in, and she was very pleased to see us. That ship has sailed. She is now just seeing us as the annoying bastards that keep locking her in this room. I'm trying to bribe her with all the treats, and she will eat the treats, and then she will ignore me. She's not being very affectionate. She's quite pissed off. We're taking her back to the vet tomorrow for her weekly checkup. So I'm all hopeful that that's going well. I'm optimistic that it shouldn't be a dramatic visit, because as far as we're aware, she's been behaving on her cast this time. So hopefully it's all healing well. So yeah, fingers crossed, because I don't think I could take another bit of bad news there. Well, I could. Obviously I could. I would survive it, but I could just do without it.
We'd sooner not.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Given the choice.
Yeah. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. But that's tomorrow at 11:30. So tomorrow, if there's any news there, I dare say we'll mention in this. So what else? That's talked about my mental health catastrophes for long enough. So what else did we want to talk about? I've got one or two.
The big thing is the save our venues.
Oh yes. Now, yes, we've mentioned a couple of times in this blog our favourite venue in Newport is Le Pub. For several reasons. It's a great music venue. It's also a great vegan restaurant. Also, they put on comedy gigs.
Don't want to throw any shade on Tiny Rebel, though, that also does really nice cider and lovely vegan options, although I often go for the bear fries. Almost exclusively.
I do love Tiny Rebel, but I've got a special place in my heart for Le Pub.
And also, I've never done a gig in Tiny Rebel.
Yeah, so. They don't do comedy gigs.
No.
Or really music gigs. They sometimes have like little acoustic things, but it's not really a venue for that. But yeah, Le Pub is mainly a music venue, but they do comedy stuff as well. So you've gigged there several times. They are run by the lovely Sam Dabb, who's a friend of ours. She, while all of this has been going on and lots of venues have had to close, obviously, because they've been told to, there is a bit of a big worry. There is a big worry that quite a lot of sort of small independent venues are really going to struggle, and the chances are, without help and intervention, quite a lot of them might not be able to reopen when all of this is over, depending on how long this goes on for. Yes, there have been small business grants, but when you've got staff on furlough and you've got bills to pay, they won't necessarily cover you for very long, especially depending on what your rent is. Thankfully, like I said, my business has been given a break on the rent for 3 months, but most commercial rental properties are not going to offer that. So even if you've got yourself a £10,000 or £25,000 grant, if you're talking sort of 6 months of closure, your rent could be gone with that and your bills could be gone with that without any money coming in. So a lot of venues are going to struggle. So there is a campaign being run by the Music Venue Trust called Save Our Venues. Hello, little man. This is Arthur. He's a little monster.
Quite furry, actually.
He is quite furry. I don't think he wants to be held though, Babs.
No.
I swear, when we're not recording these, they do let us pick them up and love them.
Quite
They're a bit camera shy.
Yeah, they want to appear on camera.
But so it's a campaign called Save Our Venues, being run by the Music Venue Trust, which Sam is also working for. They're basically doing a big crowdfunder to help support grassroots venues so that they can reopen after all of this is over. Now, I can't state how important this is, because actually without little independent grassroots venues, you're not going to get upcoming musical and comedy talent. They're not going to be places where they can cut their teeth, and there will be a big sort of absence on our sort of high streets of places to go for live entertainment.
Yeah.
And that will have far-reaching effects for a long time. Eventually places will reopen, but not the same places that are already established, have already got their promotions, already know the bands that they like to book, and have already got the audiences there. So if we all have to start from scratch in a few years from now, then that's going to be a big loss. So obviously, as I've said with anything that we've done any fundraising chat for, only if you're in a position to do so. Do not sort of feel obliged if you're struggling. Everybody is finding things financially tough, but there are a lot of people out there who are still working, who are on 100% of their normal salary, and actually a lot of their outgoings are fewer than they normally have because they're not out and about. So if you are in a position and you think that's something that you want to support, I recommend going to saveourvenues.co.uk or just tweeting the hashtag #SaveOurVenues, and just look at see what other people are doing for that, and see how you can get involved.
Really does, as Ellie saying, it affects loads of different people, because it's not, even if you go to those venues, then it's obvious, right? You want those venues to still be there for you to go to, even if you don't go to them. You want them to be there because it's where people
there's
cut
a cat
their teeth
doing some stuff,
and it affects the comedians and bands who end up in bigger venues or even on television and things like that.
Yeah. So. Well, that's the thing. Like, even if you might say, well, I only watch big bands and I only watch sort of big acts and Live at the Apollo and stuff. Yeah, but they've all cut their teeth at little venues to get to where they are. And if we don't have as many little venues, then we will feel the effects of that for several years. And obviously this is all a game changer anyway. We're going to feel strange after effects to this whole thing for many years to come, but one of them does not have to be that we don't, because also how much are we going to want to go out and interact with real people and see live entertainment by real living people that we can see after all of this is over? That's not going to be able to happen if those venues have gone under while all of this has been going on. So
and it's also things that made better by competition as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, the more different venues there are, the better venues are going to be in general. Like, I mean, Wetherspoon is a horrible, shitty chain. It's, horrible for moral reasons, but the food and drink... excuse me.
Bless you.
The point I was trying to make is the food and drink isn't bad, and they get local breweries and sometimes, but it would be so much worse probably if they didn't have to compete with the
Yeah,
local
God.
interesting venues.
If there's
And
no
actually,
little independence to compete with, because we don't really go to change if we can avoid it.
no,
But
but
they might be the only things we're left with.
exactly, and the quality of them will just go down the pan because they
Yeah.
don't have to worry about competing with the interesting, quirky local.
Yeah, and they won't have to
venues,
take
so-
punts on little upcoming local bands. They can just sort of like book some really crappy commercial people, and yeah, so it's important so that we have a good version of normal to go back to when all of this is over. So that's something to look into. So even if you can't donate, maybe just share stuff with the hashtag Save Our Venues, and just get it out there. But if you can donate, or if you can give your time, or if you can spread the word, it is worth looking into. I'll put, as usual, all the info in the blurb for this. But yeah, I do recommend having a little look at that. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So I do want to talk a little bit about some other real world stuff if you don't have anything to sort of desperately interject with. First thing we should mention, Boris Johnson is back in work. So that's a significant thing. Not that I think it'll make much difference, but he is officially back. I have noticed a lot of people casting aspersions on, well, how ill was he? Because if he was in intensive care, like, seems like he's bounced back quite well, and maybe he wasn't really sick enough to be in intensive care. And there's lots of people casting aspersions on it. I don't really care how ill he was, and I wouldn't be surprised if they'd maybe exaggerated it for a bit of sort of sympathy, and then therefore, well done, Boris, and sort of a positive feeling towards him. I wouldn't be surprised if some of his colleagues have just gone, let's just get him out of the way for a bit.
I don't really know. The thing is, it's such a new illness. It's hard to really know, and people are affected
And it
by
is
it in
so
different
varied,
ways.
yeah.
It's hard to know how it's affecting one person to the next. I wouldn't want to cast any aspersions on that. I think the weirder thing is that they were so adamant that he was still kind of in charge and running things, even when he was in hospital. They were saying, "Oh no, we're giving him the briefings, and he's still
working
making
from
decisions and making
hospital."
decisions when he was supposedly seriously ill." And then once he gets over the worst of it, and he retires to Chequers, and we don't.
Yes,
hear
and they said
from him.
on medical advice he's been told not to be involved and not to do any work until he's back. He is now back.
When they say medical advice have told him not to work, does that just mean some doctors have said Boris Johnson
Please
shouldn't be
don't.
running the country?
Oh, I hope
Please.
so. Please don't work, Boris.
For
So
the
he's
good
back.
of everyone.
So I guess that at least means that whatever. Oh, dude, leave him alone. He's
Look at
not
him, though.
into
He's
it.
so cute.
He is lovely, but look, yeah. Oh.
He's just out of shot there.
But yeah, he's back in work. He didn't do today's press briefing, which I did watch. I haven't watched them for a while. Don't know why I decided today to be the one to watch, but actually it wasn't anything too dramatic in today's. One of the things that was announced today, one of the sort of slightly less exciting but quite important things, was that they have launched a plan to sort of do 100% government-backed loans to businesses so that people don't have to go under. But they are loans; they will have to be paid back, but at sort of very good rates. But they will be government-backed. So that's something. Slightly more interestingly, they announced and admitted that among the death figures, which are now in the sort of 23,000 mark, 89 is the number that they're officially saying were healthcare workers or frontline care workers in social care. There's a lot of talk about that being not an accurate number, but at least 89 of those have been NHS frontline workers or support workers. They have said that they have today launched a life assurance scheme for the families of those people that have left behind. So it's a £60,000 life assurance to help them through this time. That, I guess, is something. Feels a bit paltry to me. You can't, obviously no amount would really make up for the fact that you've lost a loved one. But I just think, considering these people are risking their lives to save lives, £60,000 for losing your mother, father, husband or wife is not really gonna cut it, but I guess it will help you through the next couple of years financially. So it is something, and it is showing a certain amount of compassion, I guess. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a bit trite to call people sort of heroes, but these people are really putting themselves in harm's way.
Yeah.
And at risk of catching this thing that we don't know how it's going to affect one person from the next, and there are young, healthy people dying from it, and particularly it seems like if you're prolonged exposure, seems to
make it worse.
Makes it worse. So
yeah,
you know, you can't really put a price on that, and yeah, I don't know how you make it right by these people and by their families, really. But certainly, I hope they get any support that they can.
Yeah, I guess it's something. Another thing that would be better going forward would be to financially support the people who are doing it now, so they don't have to die before you financially support them.
Well,
I think we should be
making
paying
sure
them better.
People, and that would be a good...
And supporting them more and making sure they have suitable PPE and make prevention better than cure.
Actually, as much as it would be better if nobody had to lose their lives, that would actually be a good legacy for the people that did, if there was some provision for the people who come after them or the people who work alongside them to make sure they are paid a wage, not just in times of pandemic, but all the time, because they're always looking after us, and they're very often, not on pandemic levels, but very often doctors have to deal with contagious diseases.
Unfortunately, on that slightly grim note, we're about to run out of time.
New Zealand have eradicated COVID-19.
Yeah, they've got no local transmissions going on in New Zealand. Well done, New Zealand. Can Jacinda Ardern come and run here, please? I really wish we had her instead.
That'd be alright, wouldn't it?
Or can we move to New Zealand?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm up for it.
They've all got that accent, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I like a Kiwi accent.
Actually, yeah, it's Australian accent I don't like.
Right, okay. I'll tell my Aussie relatives. Right, so that's on that note.
To upset people.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.